The arrival of the human. Lily's life had become one of endless darkness. She had once been part of a thriving colony of the Starborn, a peaceful and highly advanced race who had discovered the art of healing, one of the rarest and most powerful gifts in the galaxy. But now, all that was left of her people was destruction and despair. The Ravagers, the merciless alien invaders who had destroyed her home, had left nothing behind but rubble. They had taken everything, including her family, her friends, and her freedom. She was the last of her kind, and her existence now served only one purpose: to heal the wounds of her captors. For 3 long cycles, Lily had been trapped aboard the Bark Horizon, a massive warship that drifted through the vast emptiness of space. The ship was a prison, and Lily was its most valuable captive. The Ravagers, with their brutal nature and cold, calculating minds, had quickly realized that the Starborn were capable of healing injuries, severe injuries that no technology could fix. Lily had become a tool in their hands, a healer they could use at their will. Lily's cell was a cramped, cold space with nothing but a thin mat on the floor, a small bowl of nutrient paste, and the faint, constant hum of the ship's engines. She curled up on the mat, trying to find some comfort in the solitude. Her silvery skin, a distinctive trait of the Starborn, glowed faintly in the dim light, the soft blue hue offering a glimmer of light in the otherwise oppressive darkness. Her long, platinum blonde hair cascaded around her face, a stark contrast to the bleak surroundings. It was during the 3rd cycle of captivity that the Ravagers had first discovered the extent of her abilities. They had learned that her healing powers weren't just for small wounds or bruises. Her touch could regenerate tissue, cure diseases, and even heal the most severe burns. She was invaluable to them, and they had quickly put her to work, using her to patch up their injured warriors after their frequent raids on other ships and colonies. Each time she healed one of them, the Ravagers would drag her back to her cell, only to bring her out again when they needed her. One evening, as the dim lights flickered, Lily heard the boss shoved Lily forward with a grunt. "Fix them," he ordered, his voice flat and devoid of any compassion. "And remember what happens if you try anything stupid." Lily didn't answer. She simply nodded and moved toward the first patient. Her hands, trembling from the constant strain, hovered over the burn on the Ravager's chest. As she closed her eyes, her skin began to glow brighter, the soft blue light radiating from her hands as she channeled her healing energy into the wound. Slowly, the tissue began to regenerate, new skin growing over the burn, sealing the damage. The process was exhausting, draining Lily's energy with each passing second. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. If she did, the Ravagers would punish her, or worse, they might kill her. The Starborn were precious to them, but only as long as they were useful. Once the first Ravager was healed, she moved to the second. His leg was a mess, shattered in multiple places. Her hands rested gently on the wound, her mind focused on the intricate task of regenerating bone and muscle. It was slow, painstaking work, but she couldn't afford to falter. As she healed him, her vision blurred, the edges of her consciousness beginning to fade. But she pushed forward, determined to finish the task. By the time she had healed the 3rd Ravager, her glow had dimmed to almost nothing, her energy nearly depleted. She could barely stand, her legs trembling beneath her. The Ravagers didn't care. They had their healer, and that was all that mattered to them. Boss gestured toward the door. "Back to your cell," he growled. "And don't try anything. You're not worth the trouble." Lily stumbled as she was dragged back through the corridors, the weight of exhaustion settling heavily on her shoulders. As they passed one of the observation windows, she caught a glimpse of the vast expanse of space outside. Stars twinkled in the distance, a reminder of the freedom that seemed so far away. She longed for it, but it felt as unreachable as the stars themselves. Back in her cell, Lily collapsed onto the thin mat, her body aching from the exertion. The healing had taken everything from her, her strength, her spirit, and her hope. But it was all she had left, a glimpse of hope. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and despair. Lily's existence had become a cycle. Heal the Ravagers, return to her cell, sleep, and then wake up to do it all over again. Each day felt longer than the last, each healing more draining. The glow of her skin, once a vibrant display of energy, had faded to a dim flicker, only flaring bright when she was forced to heal another injured Ravager. Despite the pain and the near-constant depletion of her strength, Lily knew she had to continue. If she didn't, there was nothing left to keep her alive. Her captors had learned quickly that the Starborn's ability to heal wasn't infinite. The strain it put on her body was immense, and without adequate rest or nourishment, it would eventually kill her. But the Ravagers didn't care. They were willing to push her to the brink if it meant gaining an advantage in their ongoing conquest of the galaxy. And so, Lily was trapped, a prisoner of both her captors and her own gift. However, there was a part of her that still clung to the hope that one day, somehow, she would escape. It was a fragile hope, one that seemed distant and impossible, but it was all she had left. Every time she looked out at the stars through the observation windows of her cell, a part of her believed that maybe, just maybe, someone would find her. It was during one of these moments, as she gazed longingly at the dark void of space, that she first saw it. A flicker, small but undeniable, moving against the backdrop of stars. A ship. At first, she thought it was just a trick of her tired mind, but as she watched, the shape became clearer. It was large, sleek, and its course was headed directly for the Bark horizon. Lily's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? Could someone be coming to rescue her? Or was it simply another band of enemies seeking to do battle with the Ravagers? She didn't know, but the sight of the ship gave her a sense of hope she hadn't felt in years. The ship's silhouette grew larger as it approached the Bark horizon, and Lily pressed her face to the cold window, willing herself to believe that this could be the moment she had waited for. Days passed in a blur as she continued her grueling work. The Ravagers didn't mention the ship again, and Lily couldn't find the courage to ask. Her routine continued, healing their warriors, enduring the brutality, and retreating back to the small, cold confines of her cell. But she never stopped watching the stars. Every night, she would look out the window, hoping for another glimpse of that mysterious ship. Then, one day, it happened. The Ravagers came for her again. This time, it wasn't the usual call to the medical bay. Instead, Boss and a group of his soldiers arrived at her cell, their expressions unreadable. They had been unusually quiet, and Lily could feel the tension in the air. Her instincts screamed that something had changed. "Get up, healer," Boss commanded, his tone hard. "The ship is docking. The commander wants you." Lily rose from her mat, a sense of unease creeping into her chest. What could the commander want with her? She had healed enough of his warriors, so why would he need her now? But there was no time to dwell on it. The Ravagers had her in their grip, and resisting would only make things worse. They marched her down the corridors of the ship once more, her footsteps echoing through the metal halls. As they approached the command deck, Lily's stomach churned. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a room that was both pristine and ominous. At the center of the room stood a tall figure, draped in dark, ornate armor that shimmered under the harsh lights. His face was hidden behind a mask, his yellow eyes glowing faintly from within the shadows. Lily's breath caught in her throat. This was no ordinary Ravager. This was the commander. Ah, the healer. The commander's voice was smooth and cold, his words carrying an air of authority. "I've heard much about your talents." Lily stood silently, her hands trembling at her sides. The commander stepped forward, his eyes studying her with a strange intensity. There was something about him that unsettled her, something that made her feel as though she were under a microscope. "We have a situation," the commander continued, his voice sharp. "Our last raid didn't go as planned. We've lost several ships, and our warriors are in dire need of repair. Your abilities will be tested, healer. You will work harder than you ever have before. Failure is not an option. Lily's heart raced in her chest. She had heard the rumors, the whispers among the Ravagers about their commander's ruthless nature. They spoke of how he was more brutal than any of the others, how he cared little for his own kind, let alone prisoners like her. But there was something more in his gaze now. It wasn't just the usual hunger for her healing abilities. It was something else, something that made her skin crawl. "Now come." The commander gestured toward a set of doors on the far side of the room. "There's work to be done." Lily had no choice but to obey. She was led to another part of the ship, a section she had never seen before. The area was dimly lit, and the air was thick with the smell of antiseptic and blood. There she saw them, rows upon rows of injured Ravagers, each one more severely wounded than the last. It was clear that the commander's warriors had been through hell. "You will heal them all," the commander ordered, his tone as cold as the steel of the ship around them. "Do not fail me." Lily swallowed hard, her body trembling. She had healed before, but never on this scale. The injuries were severe: burns, broken bones, and torn flesh. The Ravagers lay on the medical tables, their faces twisted in pain. And yet Lily felt a sense of responsibility stir within her. She was the last of her kind, and her gift was powerful, but it was also a curse. It had become a tool of control for her captors. But perhaps, just perhaps, this was the turning point. The ship she had seen earlier, the one that had filled her heart with hope, had arrived for a reason. Could this be her chance to escape? Or would she be trapped in this never-ending cycle of abuse and captivity? As her hands touched the first Ravager's chest, her mind raced. She had to think beyond healing. She had to find a way to survive, to escape, and maybe even to help others like her, if there were any left. But that would require more than just healing. It would require something she hadn't had in a long time: hope. And perhaps, just perhaps, that hope was about to be tested in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. The unknown savior. Lily's days had become a blur of constant motion, her hands moving from one Ravager to another, healing the grotesque injuries that seemed to pile up with every raid. The Ravagers, a violent and merciless species, did not know the meaning of restraint. They fought fiercely, with no regard for their own lives, always pushing themselves to the limit. And every time they returned, broken and battered, they demanded that Lily heal them, at any cost. The commander watched from a distance, always present, his yellow eyes observing her every movement. He never spoke, except to issue orders, and always in that cold, detached tone that made her feel like a tool. Nothing more than a means to an end. But Lily had learned something important in the past few cycles. The commander's presence was not just a means of ensuring her compliance. There was something more to his actions, something that she couldn't quite grasp, but which gnawed at her with an unsettling sense of dread. It was after a particularly brutal series of raids that Lily first started to sense the change. For days, the Ravagers had returned to the ship, their injuries more severe with each mission. She had healed so many of them. She could no longer distinguish one from the other. Her body had grown weak, her glow dimming as the energy she channeled into the Ravagers drained her further. And yet, the commander pushed her harder, demanding more each time. On the fourth night of this grueling cycle, as Lily stumbled through the cold corridors of the ship, her body trembling from exhaustion, something unexpected happened. The door to her cell opened, but it wasn't Boss who stood in the doorway. It was someone else, someone completely unfamiliar. At first, Lily thought she was hallucinating, but no, there was a human standing before her, a man. His face was grim, his expression fierce but determined. He was dressed in a dark, tactical suit, the kind of gear one would wear for combat, with a utility belt holding various tools and weapons. His dark hair was short and messy, and his eyes, though tired, held a spark of purpose. He stood with a quiet strength, his posture straight and resolute. Lily froze, her heart hammering in her chest. She had never seen another human before, Not since the Ravagers had taken her from her home. The shock was overwhelming. She had believed her people to be gone, wiped out in the Ravager attacks. And yet here he was, standing before her, alive. Who are you?" Lily whispered, her voice hoarse from the constant strain of healing. The man took a step forward, his gaze never leaving her. "I'm here to get you out of here," he said, his voice low but filled with conviction. "We've been looking for you. You're not alone anymore." Lily blinked, unsure if she was dreaming. She had lived in isolation for so long, trapped in the cold, dark halls of the Bark Horizon, that the idea of rescue seemed almost impossible. And yet, here was this human, this stranger, offering her hope when she had nearly given up on it. How did you find me?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and cautious hope. The man's face softened, his expression almost tender. "It wasn't easy. We've been tracking the Ravagers for months, following their movements. And we knew you were here, somewhere on this ship. We just had to find you." Lily's mind raced. This was it. This was the moment she had dreamed of, the moment that could change everything. But there were still so many questions. How had this human found her? Who was he? And why did he come to her rescue? Before she could ask another question, the man reached into his pack and pulled out a small device. It looked like a simple communicator, but there was something about it that caught Lily's attention. He tapped a button, and a holographic image flickered to life in front of them. The image was of a group of humans, soldiers, she realized, standing in a war room, their faces grim but determined. "This is the team," the man said, glancing at the hologram. "We're part of a resistance group, fighting against the Ravagers. We've been working to take down their forces, and we've been tracking their movements for a long time. When we heard about you, we knew we had to act fast." Lily's heart swelled with a mixture of emotions. There was relief, yes, but there was also fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear that this could be another trick, another cruel illusion created by her mind to shield her from the reality of her hopeless situation. "Are you really here to help me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "How do I know I can trust you?" The man paused, his gaze steady. "I know it's hard to believe," he said, his voice firm but understanding. "But I'm telling you the truth. We're not here to hurt you. We're here to free you." Lily looked into his eyes, searching for any sign of deceit. She saw none. There was nothing but sincerity in his expression, a quiet determination that made her believe, if only for a moment, that maybe, just maybe, she had a chance to escape. Suddenly, the ship's alarms began to blare, loud and jarring, filling the air with a sense of urgency. The man cursed under his breath and grabbed Lily's arm gently, pulling her toward the door. "We don't have much time," he said. "They'll be coming for us. We need to move now." Lily's heart raced. She had no idea what was happening, but one thing was certain. She couldn't stay here. Not now, not with this man offering her a chance at freedom. For the first time in what felt like forever, Lily felt a spark of hope ignite inside her chest. The man led her through the dimly lit corridors, moving quickly but quietly. Lily stumbled to keep up, her body still weak from the constant strain of healing the Ravagers. The ship seemed eerily quiet as they moved through it, the usual sounds of Ravagers and their crew members absent, as if the entire vessel had fallen into a strange silence. As they approached the exit, the man stopped, his hand hovering over a control panel. He glanced at Lily, his face set with resolve. "We're almost there," he said, "but we need to hurry. The Ravagers will be searching for you soon." Before Lily could respond, the door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the cold expanse of the hangar bay. It was vast, filled with machinery and ships, but it was clear that this wasn't just any ordinary hangar. The human soldiers, hidden in the shadows, stood ready. Their faces were stern, their weapons raised, but there was something in their posture, a sense of readiness, that told Lily they had been waiting for this moment for a long time. The man who had saved her turned to her, offering her a reassuring smile. "Get on the ship. We'll get you to safety. It's not over yet, Lily." As the hangar doors opened wide, revealing the vastness of space beyond, Lily realized that this was her moment. The moment where everything she had lost, everything she had suffered, could finally be left behind. She stepped forward, not looking back, her heart filled with the promise of something more, something beyond the pain, beyond the darkness. And for the first time in years, she believed it.